live debate. Good morning to you too. In 20 minutes with it flying gender over his response video to me and trans issues as a whole. Alhana, man, definitely a turf. Complete with the whole adult human female bollocks. And you did a good job. Just wish you had challenged him more on the occipital fracture hyperbole he kept throwing out to justify misgendering Fallon Fox. FSG, in what way would you like to challenge my hyperbole? I don't think I was using the injury to justify recognizing that Fox 4 is male. I would have done that irrespective of how the fights went, etc. Lonza, no you wouldn't. People only care about trans women competing when they win. I say they, because I can hardly compete in the getting out of my chair category. Much respect for trans women who do compete. You should go look at the vileness they are bombarded with every day. FSG, trust me, I would use male pronouns to describe every trans woman if I could. I always do offline. Fox's athletic performance had nothing to do with my choice to use male pronouns. I think most PPL would say bombarded with the vileness is greater than skull cracked open by a cheetah. Lonza, I checked what the injury was, and it was an orbital fracture. So I googled to find out how common the injury was in MMA. Very first link to come up was a video, 10 best orbital fractures in MMA. Happens to about 14% of fighters. Your point does not hold up to scrutiny. FSG, either way, you were wrong when you said that I did it because of Fox's performance, right? I will take a look at the link. My first question would be, are these male or female fighters, or the competition as a whole? Alhana, it wasn't Christy that said it, it was me. And I did not say you misgendered Fox because of her performance, but you used her performance to justify your position. I.E, referring to one of the most common injuries in combat sports as fracturing women's skulls. FSG, this link says that arm injuries are actually the most common type of injury from MMA and doesn't even mention orbital bone fractures, although it does include concussion. Orbital bones are part of the skull. Adult human females are women. Also, I just reread your original post. You specifically said he kept throwing out to justify misgendering Fallon Fox. Nothing about justifying a broader ideology. Specifically the words justify misgendering Fallon Fox. That is what you accused me of. Alhana, okay, let me ask you a few questions. I am going to post 2 pictures. I want you to tell me 3 things, as these men or women, which, if any, would you be happy with fighting against other women, and if the were to both square off in a fight, who is more likely to win? FSG, that's only 2 questions, as far as I can see. I don't know these people, so I believe the male people should fight other males. The female people should fight other females. One of them is Fallon, right? So that's a garbage fighter. But I didn't KNW other PPL at all, so no answer. Alhana, oh, come on, surely you can make judgments with your eyes? Which, if either is cis or trans? Which, if either, should compete against other cis women? Which, if marched together, is more likely to win? Alhana, I'll even give you some extra details. The woman on the left is 5 feet 7 inches and 144 pounds. The woman on the right is 5 feet 9 inches and 240 pounds. You seem to think you can judge who should fight who, and what sex, gender people are. So answer. FSG, just because I think MMA should be sex segregated doesn't mean that I said I could judge what sex a person was by looking at them, right? I don't know what sex these people are. I don't know who they should fight. Alhana, so, you are basically saying that your opinion on whether trans women should compete as women is just based on your feeling than based on facts. Gotcha. FSG, dude, if that's your gotcha, I mean, whatever. I told you this would be tedious. Alhana, nope. Not a gotcha, not my fault you can't prove that you know what you are talking about. I didn't even get to my point as you didn't even attempt to answer the questions. Just like you backed out when Jangles put things to you that you couldn't argue. Aghornst. FSG, oh no, my wounded ego. I'm more than happy with how I performed during the debate. Anyway, now that this has completely devolved, I'm going to catch you later. Have fun now. Alhana, yup, and again backing out when things get too tough for you. Take care Mr. CRA. Lonza. Guess I didn't have to come back to this. My impromptu tag team partner, Alhana, did better than I would have. And FTR, I did go back in the debate. Your entire argument was, but guys, which misses so much of what happens to a trans body. FSG, I'd be happy to show this exchange to any member of the general public. I don't think you did as well as you think you did, but of course, I would say that. Either way, thanks for the reply. Alhana, and you think you did well? You couldn't counter a single thing I said. FSG, Right. But there's more to an argument than simple point scoring. When Mel Gibson got drunk and screamed, "The Jews start all the wars," he didn't win that argument because nobody presented him with a formal rebuttal at the time. FSG, but whereas I openly admit my own bias, because you are in a cult, you are terrified to even acknowledge, or perceive, your own biases, because you know what happens to people who disagree. FSG, your entire friend group would not only abandon you overnight, but they might also even actively harass you for years. So you're not really in a position to make an informed decision. I mean, why not ask them now what they would do? Just hypothetically. FSG, that might be the best way to work out if they are really your friends or just fellow cult members. Lonza, I was already well known when I came out. It cost me friends. FSG, doesn't answer the question. What would your current friends do if you changed your mind and became a TERF? Lonza, hopefully stone me to death. I wouldn't want to live being defined by hating someone's human rights. FSG, right. So you're in a cult that operates exactly like Scientology. If a person tries to leave, they become fair game. Even violence is acceptable. Alhana, not what she said. And if respecting people's human rights is a cult, then sign me up. FSG, so you obviously haven't heard of the People's Temple then. Lonza, Yossi, you brought that up while being mopped up with the rest of the Kool-Aid. You do not know how to parse sentences, as what I said was clearly irrelevant to how you took it. And stopping liking and retweeting your own stuff. Your follower will see tweets you wrote already. FSG, you're being pretty vague. Also, I was retweeting both of our stuff to be fair. But thanks for the tech tip. Still, the fact that you're in a cult and proud of it is now open. Right? It's a human rights cult and that's a good thing. That's your position. So cool. Alhana, you definitely have a reading comprehension problem. FSG, here's why I know you're losing. I may have a reading comprehension problem, but someone who is genuinely interested in an honest debate would work to solve it. You're just desperately looking for points because now you know you're in a cult. Alhana, I tried to debate you, you dodged every question I put to you and strawman everything that is said to you. Either deliberately or through your own ignorance. Either way, you have given nothing to debate. FSG, I just responded. You can't deny the central claim that your friends would turn in you exactly the same way Scientologists would if you decided you no longer believed as they do. FSG, this argument is getting so good. Quote, Alhana saying not what she said. And if respecting people's human rights is a cult, then sign me up. Alhana, I have no idea what point you think you are scoring here. And frankly I don't care. You have no argument based in any sort of facts. You just cherry pick whatever suits your biased agenda. You may be a CRA, but you aren't a very good one. Any serious CRA would have scored. FSG, you know exactly what I'm saying. You are in a cult. Alhana, no, that isn't what I said. I said if respecting human rights is a cult, which it isn't BTW, then sign me up. A cult requires organization and structure. Believing people should be treated with respect doesn't. FSG, are you saying that the gender theist movement has no organizations or structures? Also, like I said, it's not like a traditional cult, it's more like tarot cards or astrology. It requires cult-like thinking to maintain. However, unlike tarot cards or astrology, gender theists literally think that it's okay to carry out violence to enforce their beliefs. Alhana, strange, as I and all of my friends are pretty strict pacifists. And for theism to be an apt description, it would have to be a belief with no scientific basis, whereas, scientific consensus says that trans people exist and are valid. But of course, you don't accept science. That doesn't fit your bias. You pretty much said that in Jangle's stream. FSG, that's wonderful that the people you know do not believe in vigilante political violence. However, the broader gender theist movement most certainly does. Secondly, you are incorrect about the types of beliefs that can make up cults. Some of them consist entirely of scientists. So the fact that your beliefs may have a scientific basis doesn't mean you aren't behaving like cult members. That's exactly the point of the People Temple. Alhana, if you are referring to things like Scientology, then their science has no support outside of their organization. FSG, no, I am not. Obviously, I know Scientologists aren't scientists. Although, I don't know how to use Twitter. So maybe that isn't obvious. Alhana, either way, fringe science is NKT the same thing as scientific consensus. FSG, either way, cult behavior is cult behavior. You can't be friends with that person because they think X is cult behavior. Alhana, It isn't a case of that, it is a case of why would you support someone who wishes me harm? FSG, because the world is more complex than good people and bad people. And the older a person gets, the clearer that becomes. It seems very easy to separate people into good and bad when you're young. I did it a lot. I totally think I would have been trans, and B if I had been 10 years younger. In that I still would be the same person, but I would conceive of that through gender theism. Alhana, how old do you think I am? And you think I am in a cult because I don't support people who at best want to remove my human rights and at worst want me dead? FSG, if I had to guess I would say under 30. The cult-like belief is that you think you have the right to judge other people's beliefs, as opposed to their behavior, and impose social punishments if they don't measure up. Just like the WBC, you think you're doing a kindness. Alhana, wrong and wrong. I don't judge people's beliefs, but their actions in their attempts to cause me harm, and of people like me. FSG, right. But like I said, focused on point scoring to the detriment of what those points actually are. You're significantly older than you appear mentally to me. That's awesome and not cultish. Also, I want to address this next sentence, but it's going to take a little time to unpack. Well, would you say you've judged me? All I've done is express my opinions. Alhana, you have self-identified as a member of a group that actively seek to cause harm to trans people. A group that spreads lies about trans people, such as we are rapists and pedophiles. It is not your opinions I judge you on. FSG, sorry, what group is this? Alhana, you self-identified as a TERF, even though you class the term as a slur, even though it was TERFs who coined the phrase. FSG, no, I said I didn't identify as that. I said I may use it sometimes ironically because I know other people call me that. The same way atheists call themselves heretics, but they obviously don't actually think of their views in those terms. Alhana, yet you use all of their talking points. FSG, which is exactly what they said during McCarthyism. And again you don't admit your mistake, which was to claim that I self-identify as a something I do not. Alhana, you called yourself a TERF, you say all the same things as TERFs. It isn't McCarthyism. It is used like if you, at the risk of invoking Godwin's law, started repeating Mein Kampf to advocate in killing Jews and ironically called yourself a Nazi, would open yourself up to being, Alhana, called a Nazi. FSG, PFFFFT. At the risk of invoking Godwin's law, laugh emoji, more like at the risk of this tweet appearing in a dictionary next to the term. Alhana, if you insist. Even though I was not calling you a Nazi, just using it as an illustration. But whatever. FSG, please find me the source where I called myself a TERF. Alhana, in Jangle's vid, where to say you wouldn't use the term, but yes, that is what you believe. To paraphrase, FSG, and if I wouldn't use the term then I don't identify that way, right? Alhana, not necessarily. You stated you don't use the term as you would as a slur, not because you do not share the same ideology. Then went on to use several of their talking points and arguments using their exact phrasing. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. FSG, that is literally what they said during McCarthyism. Do you know what that is? Alhana, yes, I do. Under McCarthyism they labeled any undesirable behavior as proof of someone being a communist. But someone that actually preaches the contents of the conquest of bread can safely be labeled a communist. FSG, right. But what were they trying to do when they labeled any undesirable activity as communist? What was the purpose of that? Alhana, to root out communists and rid themselves of undesirables. FSG, okay. In what area of society were the first wave of anti-communist witch hunts? Who perpetrated them? Alhana, federal employees and the Truman government. FSG, okay. I have also heard that during this round of witch hunts, union members were targeted for any communist affiliation. Today, the strongest union in the United States is the one union that didn't break under McCarthyism and sell out their own members. Sound likely? Alhana, I would not know. I know next to nothing about American unions as I am not American. FSG, okay. Well, the ILWU is the dockworkers union on the west coast of America. From what I understand, this is true about them. This is demonstrated in the fact that when Occupy hit and Oakland had its general strike, it was the ILWU that facilitated this. Alhana, if you say so. I fail to see the relevance of this. Let me ask you, if someone was preaching the Gospel of St. Luke, word for word, would it be safe to say they were a Christian? FSG, let me answer this. No matter what a person says, if they don't call themselves that thing, they do not self-identify as that thing, right? I know you failed to see the relevance. That's what happens when you take in new information. Just give me a second. Alhana, but I do not call myself a cultist, but you keep calling me one. Can you not see your own hypocrisy? FSG, no, because I am not saying you self-identify as being in a cult. I am saying here are all the excellent reasons why you are in a cult, even if you do not identify that way. That's the difference. FSG, let me answer this. No matter what a person says, if they don't call themselves that thing, they do not self-identify as that thing. Right? I know you failed to see the relevance. That's what happens when you take in new information. Just give me a second. Alhana, new information? I know this stuff better than you. You think it started with the unions when that was the last group targeted. FSG, the first Red Scare, which occurred immediately after World War I, revolved around a perceived threat from the American labor movement, anarchist revolution and political radicalism. Link to Wikipedia 2011 Oakland General Strike article. Alhana, link to Wikipedia McCarthyism article, as your article has nothing to do with McCarthyism or the Red Scare as a whole. FSG, had to walk THT1 back, huh? Well, I just got some food so I'm going to bounce, but I will be happy to check back in a day or two and maybe we can pick up where we left off. Have a great day. Alhana, walked what back? You linked to an article about a protest in 2011. McCarthyism was all said and done in the 50s. Man, your arguments are all over the place. FSG, okay, I'm free again. What I believe you had to walk back was your claim that my article had nothing to do with McCarthyism. You weren't quite sure, so you had to add, as a whole. That's what you walked back. Secondly, do I have to remind you the significance of the link? I said that the LWU is one of the strongest American unions today as a result of resisting the Red Scare. To think that two events couldn't be related because they were 60 years apart is absurd. Even a common left concept like white privilege requires understanding that things have a historical context. So that is not really evidence of my arguments being all over the place. But she needed something to say because it is quickly becoming obvious I know more about this than you, and you've got no idea where you're going to end up. So basically you saying your arguments are all over the place is another way of saying, I have no idea where I am in this conversation. Anyway, the point of bringing up the LWU and Occupy was to talk about the historical legacy of the American anti-communist witch hunts. So all I need now is for you to say that you understand that the witch hunts were targeting the American labor movement, anarchist revolution and political radicalism. And evidence of this is the unions that resisted this most thoroughly are the strongest unions in the US today. I'm still waiting for you to say yes to this before I can explain what the significance of this is. Alternatively, you could accept the premise, just for argument's sake. But I need you to acknowledge that you understand what I'm saying. Wikipedia first Red Scare article quote at its height in 1919 to 1920. Concerns over the effects of radical political agitation in American society and the alleged spread of communism and anarchism in the American labor movement fueled a general sense of concern.
You wait a minute. I give you 11 fucking years of my life and you're telling me that you're leaving me for a white woman?
Would it be better if she were black?
No, it'd be better if you were black.
Take care, Mr. CIA.